This is Dr. Ron, and I'm here in Boomer Life Lessons and Stories to deliver you a new episode. It's episode number 43. And of course, we're rapidly approaching episode 50, which will also be a milestone for us. So I hope that we've said something in all the previous episodes that have been beneficial or helpful to you. My sole purpose really is to help my students, to help my friends and colleagues by sharing my lessons learned and my thoughts on things that are of consequence or that matter to individuals and their families. Because what else is there, right? It's people that matter. It's families that matter. Okay, so what are we going to be talking about today? What do tulips and sports cards have in common? That's kind of an interesting topic, isn't it? You say, okay, in the previous topics or episodes, he played with transformers and trucks, right? Where's Professor Cross going with all this? I don't really know. It just seems like a good idea to talk about tulips and sports cards. Actually, there is a reason why we're going to be doing that. And I have to tell a story. Of course, there's always a story involved. We'll start first by saying, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. That will help me with the YouTube algorithm, and it will help me help more people going forward. So the story that I'd like to share with you, of course, really happened in the early 90s, around 91, 92. I was a senior engineer out in the defense aerospace industry, and I thought, it's kind of interesting to see all these companies stand up in the stock market and they have their initial first public offering. I'd like to know more about investing because I had invested and still do since I graduated from college. And, you try to do the best you can with the extra money that you have by making plans for the future and investing your money properly so that you can achieve those goals or those milestones for you and your family. But I thought, I need to know more about it. So I went to night school. And I didn't change careers. It's not that I changed careers, but I went to night school to learn more about what stockbrokers do and how companies stand up. And I got my Series 5, 6, and 7 license. And this was when I was in Orlando, Florida. So I knew more about stocks and bonds and how they were initially issued and how they traded on the secondary market. And it was very, very helpful to me. And it's kind of interesting. At that time, Boston Chicken was coming out as an initial public offering. That was, I don't know, somewhere around 93, 94, something like that. And I saw it go from $20 a share, which was its initial price, to over $40 a share by the end of the day. And the people that bought early on, and when it first was issued at $20 a share and sold at the end of the day, they doubled their money. I thought, well, how neat, But those that bought at the $40, unfortunately, over the next several weeks, they saw that the stock eroded in value down to $4 or $5 a share. And those people that held long-term lost their money because Boston Chicken went bankrupt. Now, it reemerged as Boston Market, and Boston Market has been very, very successful. So why am I telling you this? Well, there was a similar situation that erupted in 1636 over in Holland. And Holland was, when I think about Holland and the Netherlands, I think about flowers and gardens and tulips. My mother always loved tulips and she always planted tulips. But in 1636, there was a craze that kind of erupted from the all levels of society, the day laborer all the way to those that had money, the bankers and lawyers and and people of that sort. They all started chasing exotic tulip bulbs, the tulip bulbs. And the reason why they were chasing them is that when you planted these tulip bulbs and they erupted into flowers, they had these exotic color combinations. The quote average tulip was, a red or even purple and some of those other colors, but they were solid colors. Well, these exotic tulips had color patterns. There were stripes and all sorts of color combinations. And so people began to look for these exotic tulip bulbs to purchase and own. In other words, these tulip bulbs became a commodity that was to be invested in. And people began to seek out and buy more and more of these tulip bulbs, so that it drove the price up. And as neighbors and friends began to see, oh, so-and-so bought this tulip bulb and he paid X, but now it's worth X plus, I think I want some of that action, right? And so a lot of people began buying up these tulip bulbs and drove the price up. It drove the price up so much that there's evidence that people at that time were paying 300 guilders to 1,000 guilders, upwards to, in one instance, I think one sold for 10,000 guilders. Now, how do I make sense of that? Because, you know, dollars today, we kind of understand, you know, what a dollar's worth today. I mean, for $1.50, you go up buy a candy bar, I think, right? For $30,000 to $40,000, you can buy a decent car, right? We get a sense of that. College new hires in the engineering profession start out with an annual salary of probably $65,000 to $75,000. If they have certain aspects in their academic career where they've done some superlatives, they might demand more, right? But $65,000, $75,000, we'll say, is an average rate for engineering. Think about paying $65,000 to $75,000 for a tulip bulb. You know, at that time, the average wages for a worker in Holland was about 300 guilder to 1,000. You know, that's a lot of money back then in 1636. So obviously, as long as there's new buyers coming into the market, the prices keep getting bid up. And that's what happened all the way through 1637, January 1637, into February 1637. But people began to look around and say, hey, there's not as many buyers as there were, until, hey, there's no buyers at these prices. I paid all this money, something more than my annual salary, and now there's no buyers. The prices are not going up. You see, as long as the price continued to go up, everybody was happy. That's kind of like a pyramid scheme, right? But they began to look around the landscape and say, there's no buyers. Who am I going to sell to? Well, then it becomes a market transaction. Companies look at when they can't sell their product, they lower the price. And so the lower the price, the more buyers that come into the market, and you meet where buyers meet the seller's price, a transaction happens. You know, buyers pay good money for the product and they take the product home. But the price kept dropping because there were no buyers for these exotic tulip bulbs until the price collapsed. And people had exotic tulip bulbs, but nobody was willing to buy them. So those people that hung on to the tulip bulbs and didn't sell at the top of the market lost a significant amount of money. There actually was a transfer of wealth from those that had the tulip bulbs, and they sold them for big money to those that now owned the tulip bulbs and gave up big money, that now the tulip bulb's price didn't equate to the value that they paid for it. Couldn't happen today, could it? Right? Well, don't bet on it. There was an irrational exuberance for these tulip bulbs. As a matter of fact, Mackay, in his book, The Memoirs of Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowds, stated that tulip mania erupted and that pretty much the entirety of Dutch society was, actually they went crazy over these exotic tulip bulbs, chasing them, trying to own them. Now, Dr. Goldgar did another study later on after the book that Mackay put out was published, and she indicated that based on looking at first source, that it wasn't the pervasiveness of the society, it was a few hundred people, 300 individuals or families that got involved in chasing these exotic tulip bulbs. But in any case, whether it was the entirety of the society or a few hundred people, the prices were driven up through basically irrational exuberance. Now let's talk about irrational exuberance. Irrational means you're not thinking things through. Exuberance means excitement, drive to make something happen. You're all about it. You're all in, right? So when irrational exuberance occurs in the market space, nothing good can come of it. And eventually a top is reached, and then the bottom the crash happens and the bottom occurs. And people get hurt financially and otherwise. I mean, you think about the 1920s. The roaring 20s saw the expansion of the United States economy, and money was easy. Banks were making loans, and then the stock market crashed. And people who were millionaires one day were paupers, had no money the next day. It happened again in the 80s when the market crashed, and again in the early 2000s when the real estate market crashed, and then in 2007 to 2012 when we had the financial market and the stock market crashed and lost a lot of its value. So people get hurt when they become irrational about the decisions they make, and really all of the predecessor was to make that statement. I want to share something with you right now to finish the thought. Hopefully you can see this. We're going to share, I believe it's this screen. Is it that screen? It looks like I might have lost it. Let's go back in and see if there's another screen here. Yeah, it looks like I lost it. But in any case, what I wanted to share with you was the price of a Zion rookie card. A Zion rookie card is a Prism Zion Williamson rookie card sold for over $111,000. Now that card was issued in 2019. Is it rare in number? Probably not. Maybe fewer in number than the regular sports card, but evaluated as a perfect card, encapsulated and certified by PSA as a rating of 10, that card sold for $111,000. Somebody, somewhere, said, I'm going to buy that card and it's worth to me $111,000. I'm going to pay $111,000 for a Zion Williamson rookie card, and I'm going to own it. And somebody else is going to have the money I'm going to give for it. So literally, somebody paid in excess of the starting salary of a college engineering graduate. Again, college engineering graduates end up making on the average, $65,000, $75,000 a year. That was over an annual salary worth of an average college new hire's salary. So it is happening today. As a matter of fact, recently, a Michael Jordan rookie card that was, I believe it was December 23rd, sold for $250,000. It was a rookie card from 1986 Fleer cards that was certified by PSA, a card grading house, as perfect. It got a rating of 10, gem mint. It sold for $250,000. My card, I bought it because I wanted it, is worth probably $10 to $30, right? It's not worth a whole lot. And I recognize that. Let me show you something else. This is in the news today. Hopefully you can read this. Rare Mickey Mantle baseball card sells for more than $5 million, setting record. Rare Mickey Mantle card sold for over $5 million just recently. A Mike Trout card, kind of a rare in number, perfect in state, that was issued in, I don't know, 2012, 2013. That card, his rookie card, sold in excess of $2 million. So what's going on? They may be rare in number and they may be rare in state, meaning condition. But these cards that have pictures of sports figures on them, are they really worth the money people are paying for them today? Is there a bubble occurring in the sports card trading market? I don't know. I'm not the expert. But it seems to me that there is somewhat of a state of irrational exuberance in some of these cards. People don't want to be left behind. They want to jump on the bandwagon to buy these modern issue cards and hope that their investment will go up and up and up. But Are we reaching a top, or have some of the cards already reached a top value and begun to decline? You see, when the buyers dry up, the card prices begin to come down, just like the tulip bulbs prices began to come down in February of 1637. So what causes all of this? And this is the real point. We don't want to fall prey as individuals to irrational exuberance. When we get ready to make a financial decision or an investment decision, whatever the case is, whether it's investing for our future retirement, whether it's investing for buying a new home, whether it's investing for our college, the education of our children, college education of our children, we want to think things through. We want to look at the landscape, evaluate the facts that are coming to us from that landscape, put them in context in the landscape, and determine what are they telling us, what's the pros and cons, and what is the risk. And obviously, we want to say, if there's opportunity, there's going to be risk. There's going to be happenstance. And you're going to have to evaluate, is the opportunity great enough for you to endure the possible risk that could occur? And can you mitigate that risk by doing certain actions today? And if you could say, yes, I can do all that, then based on gathering the facts and looking at the context of the environment in which those facts are embedded, you're going to make a decision based on all of that to increase your net well-being, whether it's at retirement or through normal investment or for the family. And you're going to hope that it's not a bubble. But if you don't consider the facts and you get excited because somebody else is making a lot of money over here and you're not on the bandwagon, you want to jump on the bandwagon and be part of that irrational exuberance and make decisions emotionally, you're not engaging your critical thinking. And I'm here to tell you, when you don't engage critical thinking, it's going to catch up to you. Maybe not the first time, maybe not the second time, but it will catch up to you. And what you want to do is not be a part of that. You want to make sound judgments, sound decisions that deal with your financial well-being going forward. Perhaps trading cards are for you. I'm not recommending them. Perhaps you've already jumped in on that bandwagon. Perhaps stocks and bonds. And there's a reason and lots of statistics on why to buy this company versus that company. There really is. You can look at what the stock is selling for and how many times the earnings it's selling for. Now, what does that mean? It says you take what the earnings of the company was this past year, divide it by all the stock that has been issued for that company, and you get a price per earnings. And typically, a price per earnings of about 13 is pretty good. But if you're in a growth stock, people depend on the future possibility of the company making more and more money. Stocks have been selling for 30, 40, 100, 200 times earning. That's where you get into speculation. So my point is, whatever you do, think it through, especially if it involves your and your family's net well-being. And if you do that and you gather in the facts and don't become emotional about it and you engage your brain and think critically, things should be okay. I can't guarantee happenstance will not derail you at some point. But generally speaking, if you always engage your brain and think critically, good things eventually come to you and your family. And with that, my friend, you take care, be careful out there, and know this, you're always on my mind.